Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 6 of the Sandhill Artist Collective virtual holiday gallery tour. We're going to be featuring Momentum Gallery today, and this should be a very good show. And that is it for me here. So I'm going to turn this over to the founder of SHAC, Louise Klickman. Louise?
Hi, welcome to newcomers today, and welcome back to so many of you who have been with us on these programs all the way through. I think you all have received in your inbox my daily journals, and this is an opportunity for me to get up in the morning and really reflect on what we have learned, where we need to go next. We are really thrilled at the response we're getting. And so many of you have sent me very nice compliments, and some of you I have asked to give me feedback on things we can do better. And so that's how Bob and I have really learned to get better with both content programming as well as transitioning from video to live talk and whatever. So thank you, and please send us more emails about this. And at the end, we will be doing an evaluation so that we can find out what to do next. Most of you know that this grew out of a desire for people in the western part of Buncombe County, and particularly in Biltmore Lake, where Bob and I live, to have a live studio tour in our neighborhood. And just as we were discussing that, along came COVID. So Sandhill Artist Collective and all we are doing virtually is basically our version of what would happen if we had live studio tours. The only difference is this is about learning and sharing, and galleries and artists and collectors and professionals sort of all coming together for chat. And the buying, you are receiving websites after the program to do that. So that's where we are. And you will have a chance to share all 10 of these, because anything you missed, you will get a live recording. I would like to introduce my friends Jordan Allers and his wife Shifra, who I've gotten to know so well over the years in Jordan's previous position and now at Momentum, which has been nothing short of phenomenal in its growth. These two people are incredibly dedicated, and if you think you're busy, when they go home, they have 5 children. So I think they are remarkable. Jordan and Schiffer's knowledge of art, and also how to work and represent artists, both sort of mid-career artists and well-known artists, is what has been very exciting and has allowed them to move shortly into a new space. And they will be showing you about that in just a few minutes. So without any more from me, Jordan, have at it.
Hi, everybody. Let's see, I'm glad to be here. I will share my screen in a second. Just wanted to say thank you to Bob and Louise and everyone at SHAC for putting all this together, for including us and inviting us to take part in this, and, you know, get a little experience doing some of these Zoom technology and sharing more about our galleries in this wonderful city we call home, Asheville, North Carolina. So thank you for all your work this week. Well, I am Jordan Allers, as it says on the little screen right there, and sitting next to me is my wife Shifra. The two of us run Momentum Gallery, and we are super thrilled to share a little bit about our vision for this gallery and participating in this really dynamic arts community here. So I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment. So we are going to play a little bit of a video that we put together that will introduce you to the gallery a little bit and tell you a little bit more about who we are.
Welcome to Momentum Gallery in downtown Asheville. My name is Jordan Allers. I'm the gallery owner and director. I've been involved in the Asheville art scene for the past 20 years, having run another gallery here in town for about 18. I opened Momentum Gallery in the fall of 2017, so we just recently celebrated our 3-year anniversary. Momentum Gallery presents a sophisticated collection of museum-quality work which moves gracefully between style and medium to tell a story of the creative human spirit and reverence for nature. The gallery currently has work by about 50 artists. It is a diverse collection, but maintains a cohesive and distinct point of view. Many of the things that appeal to us are narrative or emotive, reward an extended look, or examine themes like transformation, memory, or movement. John Littleton and Kate Vogel are Western North Carolina artists, a husband and wife team that have collaborated for the past 35 years on a variety of glass sculptures. Some of my favorites are these What Do You Hold series, which feature remarkably detailed cast glass hands holding a variety of different forms. John and Kate represent the community of world-class glass artists based here in Western North Carolina. These are some of Amy Gross's latest works, and they feel very much like a terrarium or something alive contained behind glass. Moss and blooms, botanical subjects like leaves and even insects come in as little details in these kind of wondrous little worlds she creates. Of course, nature is a major inspiration for Amy, but remarkably nothing in her work is actually natural. These are all man-made materials such as paper, chenille, beads, wire, and ribbon. In this golden broodcomb vivarium, Amy has created a scene of an active beehive full with honeycombs and drips of honey, and swarming bees mixed with leaves and roots. The works on the wall behind me are by Ron Isaacs, an artist from Lexington, Kentucky, who for over 40 years has made his practice of replicating clothing out of plywood and paint. So everything in his work that you see is completely made from painted wood. When he does branches like this piece, he calls them sticks the hard way. Ron Isaacs sees his work directly halfway between painting and sculpture, and recurring subjects that he keeps going back to are clothing to represent the figure and nature. And that intersection between man and nature is alluded to in many of his works. These two works over my shoulder are by another North Carolina painter, Dana Brown. They're excellent examples of encaustic painting, which is done with molten wax with pigment mixed in. A lot of times with encaustic painting, people enjoy getting these swirly colors and nebulous effects. And Dana does that too. You can see in the top of this painting some of the kind of marble paper looking patterns. That's done that way. But one of the remarkable things with Dana Brown's work is the control that she has to get these hard lines. And those are actually done by carving through the wax surface after it hardens and mixing in another color, spreading in another color, and then melding it all together with a heat gun. Dana's really a master of encaustics. She enjoys these subjects like these factories and rusted metal, machinery, trains. But she also enjoys doing botanical subjects with foliage and flowers. When I first started working with Dana, she was a watercolorist, an accomplished watercolorist, and set herself the task of learning encaustic. And over a couple of years, she really became so proficient at it that they are among the best encaustics I've ever seen. Here are a few works by North Carolina artist Vicki Grant. This first 6 are an ongoing series she's been working on for the last 12 years or so, called Windows to the Earth. These are all 12-inch square mounted on slate tile, but the predominant medium is porcelain that's been hand painted. By using paints instead of glazes, she really has a full palette at her disposal. And they're called Windows to the Earth because each one of these individual pieces that can be hung modular. People have a lot of fun creating their own families, groups out of them. They're called Windows to the Earth because they each have a portal in the middle, and each of those holes is a home to a kind of a composition of natural elements, from shells to minerals, porcupine quills, bits of wood, crystals. This piece here is from her latest series, Woodland Harmony, and it incorporates her signature carved and painted porcelain in the middle, flanked by 2 live-edged sections of spalted maple. I think the organic edge really plays off of the nature of her ceramic work. But in a piece like this, you also really get a sense for her architectural background. Vicki was a practicing architect in the DC area for about 30 years. And the structure and the way that it's composed, I think, speaks to that background. This is a blown glass wall installation by a husband and wife team that are also Western North Carolina artists, Thor and Jennifer Bueno. These are blown glass, hollow forms, and you'll see that this is indicative of a lot of the work that they've been doing, a series over the last couple of years based on polished river rocks. So they have these oval forms. Each individual element is attached to the wall by a screw, and they're numbered that correspond to a paper template that they generate for each of these pieces so that they can be taken down and moved to another location at later date. One of the great things about these works is that this same composition can be installed more vertically or horizontally or at an angle to go downstairs. They can also be a great option for a curved wall or even wrapping a corner. There are a number of different finishes available from the Buenos. This piece, Ruby Blues, shows their mirrored stones, the matte finish sandblasted stones, as well as their newest, which are a hybrid stone. They have color backed with metallic. And there's lots of different patterns that they create through various processes. Some that are striped or look like marbled stone, and even some that they call Lascaux, inspired by cave paintings in France. This is Casey Roberts' work. Casey's cyanotype paintings on paper are dreamy and contemplative. Cyanotype is a photochemical process where certain solutions produce a signature blue color when exposed to light. Casey Roberts has explored cyanotype for the past 15 years and has found ways to achieve a range of color not typically seen in the cyanotype process. He works forwards and backwards through the process, creating gradations in various shades of blue to green to yellow and off-white. Selective use of gouache, an opaque watercolor, introduces black and the occasional contrasting accent. Casey tends to distill his ideas to their essence, imbuing the paintings with a Zen-like simplicity. Often focusing on natural and domestic subjects, his works have a playful and narrative quality. John Cleveland is one of the region's most accomplished landscape painters. He enjoys conveying perspective and qualities of light in remarkable detail, allowing for total immersion in the work. Standing in front of one of his large-scale oil paintings, you may feel as if you could walk right into the scene before you. Cleveland has an impressive work ethic and comments, quote, "The muse won't come if the door is not open, and the door won't open if you're not working. What motivates me to paint is finding a place that I'm pulled into because of specific light or the fact that the landscape bears witness to great events or conflicts." John Cleveland has museum shows scheduled for 2023 at the Morris Museum in Augusta, Georgia, and the Huntsville Museum of Art in Alabama. This is an oil painting by Samantha Keeley Smith named Hollow. Her sweeping oils depict abstracted landscapes with dramatic color relationships and lush surfaces. I read this painting at first like water and waves, but as I spent more time with it, it shifted to mountains and sky, and I just enjoy that the time you spend with it can change like that so dramatically. And I just really enjoy all the little moments within her work. Emotive and enthralling, they often suggest motion and even turbulence. I love the luminous quality in Samantha Keely Smith's work, how she handles the paint, pushing and blending. I can get lost in the drips and scrapes and all the little moments in her work. The artist states, "My current landscape paintings examine the underlying psychological impact of our escalating climate crisis. They look into how the unconscious mind unpacks this overwhelming reality that is hard to face up to in waking life. The work is painted and partially destroyed many times using solvents and scraping to break up the painted surface, suggesting the decay of chemical pollution and the alterations, mutations that result." In a month or so, we'll be opening Momentum Gallery's new space on Broadway with a solo exhibition by Samantha Keely Smith. We are thrilled to have over 15 new paintings from this terrific artist. This is a painting by Michael Berenger. Michael is an artist I've had the privilege of representing for over 15 years. His works are primarily mixed media. Some people think that they have collage elements in them. Rarely do they. Most of the time, they are acrylic and oil-based paint, Conte crayon or charcoal, gesso and wax also build up some impasto effects on the surface. And really just the layering process of his work is really apparent in each piece, seeing through transparent layers back to other marks that he made earlier that then he put glazes on top of, and just really give him a dynamic surface quality. With a thoughtful approach to making his paintings, Michael Berenger cites inspiration from a host of sources, including poetry and literature, anthropology, and ancient ritual sites. He also often references the prehistoric and primal urge of man to make marks. One of our local artists, Janine Marchand, composes unglazed white clay in her Fold series. Soft contours are hand-formed from slabs of clay and composed in such a way they feel continuous. I really love how this piece drapes. It feels laden and full. Devoid of color, her minimalist works focus on form. They are completely non-objective, but shapes occasionally feel anthropomorphic. I enjoy how Marchand's Fold series are elegant and minimalist without being sterile or cold. On the contrary, the works are sensual and inviting. I enjoy the gentle interplay of light and shadow falling over the voluptuous forms. Mariella Bisson delineates the geometric and sculptural planes of her subjects, creating refreshingly contemporary oil landscapes over collage underpaintings. The artist begins each piece outdoors, creating drawings and watercolor studies from life. Back in the studio, she references these preliminary studies, occasionally even incorporating this material into the collage layer that she adheres to the stretched linen. Textures are built up through this process of layering, depicting the complex surface of stone and lichen and tree bark. Bisson's paintings demonstrate a strong understanding of formal composition and reflect a sensibility honed from the time she spent immersed in the outdoors. Of note, Bisson is a two-time recipient of the Pollock-Krasner Grant and was awarded a New York Foundation for the Arts Fellowship in Painting. This is Gilles Brevel's work, Gilles is one of the most recent artists at Momentum Gallery. He is a Frenchman based in Texas. And this piece, Mask number 26, is made from painted blocks of wood. It's a continuation of a series that he's called Bending the Lines, which were a lot of abstract wall pieces in different scales that have a lot of movement and, with their blissful expressions, remind me of Buddhas without being so specific. And I really enjoy how Gilles creates the form, but then also emphasizes those contours with paint and the way that he develops the gradations and uses metallic paints to really bring these to life. Momentum's collection hails high style, refined design, and modern elegance. The works here celebrate material-based traditions rich in this area and reflect a contemporary aesthetic in harmony with our natural surroundings.
So thank you for watching that introduction to a number of artists at Momentum in a kind of a quick way. We get to show you a lot of different work here at the gallery, and anyway, hope that was enjoyable. So I'm going to talk about a couple of other artists. The first one is Haas Haley. I have had the great honor of working with Haas Haley for the past 21 years. It's a really rare privilege to have that kind of long-term relationship with some of the artists that I'm working with, and be able to see larger arcs in their career and how works that they're making now might reference something else that they made quite a while ago. Haas Haley is one of our area's most celebrated artists. He is a master metalsmith who has worked in numerous public and private collections. The gallery has Haas's original sculptures in 410 steel, painted steel wall sculptures, and what he calls drawings on steel panels, featuring imagery the artist etches into the work's painted surface. Haas has made representational work over the years, including figurative and architectural icons. He has also regularly gone back to the landscape of his childhood in Kansas, inspired by that area's vast plains and extending horizon. Over the past 3 decades that he's lived here in Western North Carolina, Haas has also responded to our mountain landscape numerous times in his work. This can be seen particularly in pieces like the bronze and granite fountains seen here, and the stainless steel pergola, both featured prominently as public works in downtown Asheville's Pack Square. This fountain here in particular, I love so many things about it, how it has this sort of reflecting pool across the top, where you can see some of the buildings around it reflected in there in that surface. And then this mountains, these tumbled granite boulders that kind of emanate from the center, definitely is sort of an abstraction of the landscape, of maybe a lake or some of the French Broad or some other bodies of water around here, mountains rising from it. And then the edge, how the water cascades off the side, is a reference to our area's wonderful waterfalls. As he began working with landscape architects and designing monumental outdoor sculptures, Haas's work began to examine landforms, topography, and elements like trees and boulders. His recent erratics are inspired by glacial erratics, boulders sometimes the size of a house that were trapped in glacial ice that have been found miles from where they originated. This idea of movement or potential movement, especially with something so monumental and massive, is quite appealing to Haas. Much of his work over the past decade or so is more abstract and conceptual, and often stems as a response to his exploration of material and his ability to manipulate it with presses and tools, which he builds to construct the work. This piece on the screen right now is in the collection of the Mint Museum in Charlotte. It's a large white ripple made from repurposed washing machine skins. Next artist I wanted to talk about is Bill Hall. Bill Hall relocated to Asheville a few years ago. We have been showing his work at Momentum since early 2018. And I just feel Asheville is so fortunate to have Bill and his wife Sarah join our creative community. Bill's experience and expertise is a benefit to anyone interested in original printmaking and fine art. Bill Hall worked as a master printer at Pace Editions in New York for 3 decades. Pace Editions is a subsidiary of Pace Gallery, a major New York art dealer that represents a number of blue chip artists. In his time with Pace, Bill Hall worked with well-known artists such as Helen Frankenthaler, Chuck Close, Jim Dine, James Turrell, and many more, assisting these artists to realize their voice and vision as original prints. In his own work, Hall builds graphic compositions that explore spatial relationships and nuanced patterning. His minimalist aesthetic is evidenced in each piece. Momentum Gallery has Hall's original prints, a number of unique collages constructed from his aquatints, etchings, and collagraphs, as well as some new paintings on panel that have helped Bill Hall really push the scale of his work. Andy Farkas, I have had the pleasure of working with for about the past 14 years. Andy is a local printmaker and just particularly masterful at the process of moku hanga, which is a Japanese watercolor woodcut. Andy has worked in the Smithsonian American Art Museum and has been invited to Japan to participate in international moku hanga conferences several times. Farkas's fable-like prints typically feature personified animals as the subject. Like snapshots, his magical prints allude to larger narratives, and occasionally the artist revisits characters and develops these stories further. Beautifully rendered images combined with short original sayings in hand-set letterpress text that offer another facet to his work. These works hold appeal to all ages, and we regularly see them move people to tears at the gallery. Andy is also one of the people featured in our small work show, which I'll talk about a little bit. Lisa Clegg, I have worked with closely since she moved to the area about 20 years ago. Lisa's figurative sculptures combine classical beauty with contemporary sensibilities. A renowned ceramist, Clegg describes her characters as, quote, hybrid creatures and mistresses of ambiguity. Her exquisitely crafted figures are often paired with animal or nature imagery and are adorned in elaborate crowns or headdresses, giving them the feeling of being goddesses, queens. Clegg often incorporates textiles in her process. Many of her sculptures feature elements sculpted with fabric that she saturates in slip, a watered-down clay body. These elements maintain the appearance of the original textile, but have the permanence of fired clay. Lisa has used stuffed animals, t-shirts, knits, and many other things this way in her work. Never shying away from provocative imagery. Her characters may be sexually charged or rendered with intense expression. One of the recent metaphors Plague has employed in her work is guardian angels. These angels may be fed up or frustrated because of the state of things. At times, they may feel helpless. In this way, Lisa processes her own attitudes and feelings about current events and is able to express herself through her work. Wonderfully articulated, Lisa Clegg's characters consistently embody passion and attitude. I wanted to talk a little bit, there's been some talk at some of the programmings that I've seen this week about the glass community here in Western North Carolina. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but really over the past 50 years, this area has increasingly become a home to a number of world-renowned glass artists and institutions dedicated to advancement in the field. In fact, Western North Carolina is one of the country's focal points for glass art. Many people are just not aware of this history. We often think of the Pacific Northwest, Chihuly, Pilchuck, with their major presence there, or Corning in New York, and even Ohio's glass manufacturing history. No doubt these communities have played an important role in glass's evolution, as has the area surrounding Asheville. Here are a few highlights. In 1968, Mark Pizer was the first resident glass artist at Penland School of Craft. He and other makers like Billy Bernstein helped establish the Glass Art Society in 1971. Just here, a little north of town. GAS, as it's known, has really grown into an international organization with thousands of members hosting annual conferences around the world. In 1974, Harvey Littleton, considered by many the father of studio glass, retired from teaching and moved about an hour north of Asheville. He established the Spruce Pine Batch, supplying glass to artists worldwide, and continued to develop his own sculptural work, as well as vitriography, a printmaking process Littleton invented that utilizes glass plates. A number of talented artists followed Harvey to our mountains, initially to work as his studio assistants. These early glass artists have gone on to illustrious careers in their own right, educating future makers and perpetuating the cycle of growth and exploration. Dale Chihuly is arguably the most well-known glass artist in the world. Exhibitions of his large-scale installations have been mounted in countries across the planet, at botanical gardens, museums, and other historic locations. In 2018, Chihuly's work was featured in the dramatic setting of our own Biltmore estate. Dale Chihuly was an early student of Harvey Littleton. Already having earned a degree in interior design, in 1966, Dale attended the University of Wisconsin-Madison to participate in the first glass program in the country being offered by Harvey Littleton. In this way, Harvey Littleton was Dale Chihuly's mentor. The two remained lifelong friends and colleagues as pioneers in this exciting and developing field. As part of Momentum Gallery's ongoing commitment to elevate the arts in Asheville, we are so proud to partner with Chihuly Studios and provide our area access to this beloved work for the first time. Right before the pandemic, my wife Schiffer and I spent 3 days at Chihuly Studios in Seattle, getting to see the team blowing glass at the Boathouse, touring their main offices at Ballard Studios, and visiting the collection at Chihuly Garden and Glass at the base of the Space Needle. We had so much fun getting to see the breadth of this artist's work up close and personal. Momentum Gallery is offering glass sculptures and editioned works on paper from Chihuly Studios. And we thought this might be a good time to share another little video.
Hello, I'm Paula Jacobson, the Edition Program Manager at Chihuly Studio in Seattle. And today I'd like to tell you about 4 studio editions that Chihuly created and released this year. Chihuly began developing the basket series in 1977 after viewing a collection of Native American woven baskets at the Washington State History Museum. And he was very much drawn by the slumped forms of these aging baskets and set out to capture similar organic characteristics in glass. And he achieved this by using the natural elements of heat, gravity, and movement. The basket series is known for the delicate fluidity of the glass, and one can really appreciate that in the hyacinth basket. Comprised of 2 individual elements, this is a very quiet, multidimensional composition that transitions beautifully from a deep cobalt here around the edge to an ethereal transparency at the base. In 1980, Chihuly sought ways to blow glass more thinly and with greater transparency. He began utilizing optic molds that strengthened the glass by introducing ribs to the bubble, and he was able to create elongated, thin-walled, undulating forms which conjure underwater life. What I find really particularly captivating about this golden-hued sculpture is how its 2 forms feature different body wraps. The large piece here presents Chihuly's traditional wrap that can be seen here as a continuous ribbon that winds along the surface of the form, while the wrap on the interior element is distinctly staccato in nature. Here we have the Spring Green Persian Studio Edition, which is a limited edition of 225. By the mid-80s, Chihuly was ready to explore new forms, scale, and color. Ongoing experiments with body wraps and ribbed optic molds resulted in the characteristic beautiful swirling patterns and irregular shapes of Chihuly's Persian series. You can really see a wider body wrap of concentric green bands wrapping around the exterior element here of the Spring Green Persian. The body wrap on the inner element, though, is quite different. In this case, once the body wrap is applied, the molten glass is then plunged into a mold and twisted to create this herringbone pattern. The different patterns create a sense of frozen motion. Independent curator Devira Tarragon hails Chihuly's macchia as 3-dimensional canvases of exuberant color. Chihuly's main idea for this series was color. He wanted to use all 300 colors that were available at the time to glass blowers. In the conceptual stages of the macchia, which means spotted in Italian, Chihuly developed a technique for applying a layer of white between colors to prevent them from blending. The white layer of glass essentially acts as a canvas between colors and enables Chihuly to use unlimited color combinations within one form. The Medici Macchia Studio Edition is an unusual macchia as it does not have a contrasting interior color. To create complexity within an otherwise monochromatic form, varying shades of red glass dust are applied during the glass blowing process, along with specks of oxblood, saffron, chartreuse, and the dramatic golden yellow lip wrap that emphasizes the fluent form. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And I hope you've enjoyed seeing and learning about the 2020 Studio Editions. If you'd like more information about them, feel free to connect with the gallery.
We're back. So the next thing we wanted to do was to talk a little bit about our new space. I'm going to try and get some photos queued up. This is the first. So we won't have photos. You'll just have to use your imaginations. But we are super excited about our upcoming move to 52 Broadway, a project that's been in progress for over 2 years now and will be culminating later this month. We plan to open in January. Honoring the history of a 100-year-old building, we chose to incorporate the old and make it a state-of-the-art gallery, a green building, an accessible building, and a smart building. Broadway is a big upgrade to our space here at Lexington Avenue, with finishes that celebrate some of the materials seen in the work we exhibit at Momentum, like walnut flooring and a monumental staircase made from steel and glass, as well as ceramic tile and lamps. Occupying 15,000 square feet of gallery space, Momentum on Broadway is entirely powered by solar panels on the roof. We have hand dryers to avoid wasting paper and have incorporated green building concepts throughout the construction to reduce its impact on the environment and human health. Accessibility is important to us, and we believe art should be able to be viewed by everyone. We chose to upgrade the entire building to allow wheelchairs to move freely through the space. We also have a touch-free entrance and exit, as well as elevator access. Additionally, we have fully automated the building and successfully merged building management and IT systems that can optimize system performance and simplify facility operations. Our lighting, security, sound system, and technology are fully integrated. Due to COVID, we did also make some additional changes, including adding automated sinks, hand sanitizing stations, and as well as a brand new HVAC system. We also incorporated an air scrubber, like a UV light air scrubber, combined with fresh air intake to ensure our staff and visitors are safe. We look forward to hosting events at 52 Broadway when it is safe to do so. One of the things that I'm excited most about our new space, though, is the collaborative opportunities with some of our artists. The gallery will feature a stainless steel ripple by Haas Haley on our facade. It's going to be mounted to the top of the building and the brick facade along Broadway. And there is also a 17-foot square difference there. That's different size. On the back of the building by one of our artists from out west, Samantha Bates. She's a mark maker whose practice is defined by the repetitious making of patterns formed by thousands and tens of thousands of dots and dashes. Samantha will also be painting a second mural along the ground floor of the back, measuring approximately 12 feet by 70 feet, and really covering the first level along the back. So we're super excited to welcome you all into that space in the coming weeks, and hope everyone will check out our website and or sign up to our newsletter list so that we can keep you informed of when that move will take place. One of our current exhibition I wanted to talk a little bit about is Small Works, Big Impact. It's an annual show that we chose to do exclusively virtual.
So we would love to be able to share with you to show the
Just go to the internet.
to show our virtual exhibition, Small Works, Big Impact.
Okay, here we go. So this is on our website, and this is our Small Works, Big Impact show.
Everything is able to be seen. It's a highly curated show that features artists from across the country, individual works from various artists, small scale, sometimes very affordable as well. And so you may want to check it out. When you click on a piece, you should be able to go directly to information about the piece, as well as be able to purchase it right there via the internet.
There's a number of pieces shown there. We will be adding additional work as they come in, so feel free to check back. But there's various different ways to explore the work, and there's a pretty diverse collection there.
And lastly, if you'd like to keep in touch with us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, and Pinterest. And we'd love to keep in touch with you. So without further ado, if you guys have questions, we hopefully have some answers to share. So feel free to ask.
Thank you so much for that amazing show of just so many wonderful artists, but also so informative. I'm often at Momentum, and it's a busy place. So I've learned a lot today about some of the artists that that I've been watching for quite some time. And one of the things about all these gallery tours is I think they're impacting my pocketbook. So anyway, all very exciting. I have some thoughts, but I really would like to open the floor up at this point. I've been so enthralled, honestly. I haven't looked at the chat or the Q&A, but if any of you have questions, Bob, can you unmute people? How does that work?
I have. People ought to be able to use their microphones. If that doesn't seem to be working, feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box that you can open.
And also, can they be seen or just heard?
I think it's like children. You know, they should be, what is it, seen and not heard, or it's the other way around. I think that they're just going to speak.
Okay. Well, announce yourself, please. If any of you have questions, I would just love to hear from you. And I know Jordan and Schiffer would as well.
Hey Lou, this is Larry Schmidt in New Orleans. How are you?
Hey, oh, I'm so glad you're on, and you've been just such a great supporter of this project.
Well, I have really thoroughly enjoyed this tour. And as you may remember, you put me on to Marshan at the Penland auction. And I do have one in, it's a triptych actually. And I'm interested to hear from Jordan about the process. I know it's porcelain, so it's clay and it's folded wet. Is that the way it's done and then fired? Could you tell me about that?
Well, I'd be happy to, Larry. Thank you so much for your question. It actually is white clay. It is not porcelain. It's the only difference. It just fires at a little lower temperature. It's not, quite that same clay body. But Janine started the series kind of serendipitously. She had dropped a slab on the studio floor and it was, enthralled by how it looked and thought, there's something here I want to explore.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I bought.
So what's interesting about Janine's work is that she wet sands it and she dry sands it. So it gets that super smooth texture, which is what is so enthralling to all of us. We regularly have people come in, stare at the work for a few minutes, and then come over and say, I know we're not supposed to touch, but may we please touch? And we usually try and find a little spot at the edge where they might be able to touch. And they're always like, oh my God, it feels so good.
So the color is the natural clay, is that right?
It is.
Right.
It's unglazed clay that's been fired, and they are made out of sections, but she sort of overlaps them so that it feels really continuous and as one kind of piece. And as Schiffer said, she's sanding it, which gets rid of all the little micro wrinkles that would happen as clay dries. So, imagine the pictures we've seen, or some of you have the fortune of visiting those kind of desert areas where the ground is cracked and dry. On a much smaller scale, the surface of clay looks like that as it dries and can look like that as it dries. And her sanding just gets it down to buttery smooth, which is a real nice feature.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Robert Milnes, I see you on here.
Yeah.
As a clay artist and teacher, do you have any comments? And you do wonderful rounded forms as well, but very differently.
Oh yeah. Well, I was really fascinated by her work, and that's the first time I had heard they were made in sections, which really complicates them and makes them even more of a feat. Do they come apart for shipping, or is that a single piece?
They don't come apart. She has.
We hope they don't come apart.
That's the goal. No, they're all fully assembled and mounted to a wood substrate.
Okay.
And that holds them together. But yeah, it's quite an engineering thing with shrinkage and everything else that they all fit so well together.
Fantastic. And I'm very happy to hear that you're opening the new space. That's very exciting.
Robert, thank you.
Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's just fabulous.
We've all been waiting with anticipation.
Nobody's been waiting with more anticipation than us.
I'm sure you all have worked so hard on this. One of the things that I found very interesting is when I first saw Janine's work, and the fact that, it felt airy, it felt like a pillow. And then I started thinking about the glass pieces that Kate and John have done that are sort of like blown up paper bags.
Right.
And I began to think, there's something going on here about taking hard surfaces and making them feel soft. Is this something you're seeing more of?
Well, we certainly see a lot of it around Momentum. I guess it's something that really appeals to me, this sort of sense of movement or sort of frozen movement. We have a number of things that look drapey and whatnot here that probably have no business draping. There's a piece behind me by Haas Haley, this black piece over my shoulder that he manipulated by feeding into the press and got this really cool topographical sort of wrinkled panel made from. And I want to turn this over on this other corner over Schiffer's head. There is it's hard to see maybe. There is a snow shovel. It's just getting blown out by the lighting. But a guy named Tom Eckert, who's a wood sculptor, I'll leave it right there. You can kind of see it. He has made his whole career over kind of carving and painting wood and making them look like draped fabric and maybe concealed objects.
Well,
So
a little known fact is my art training was as a fashion designer. So I am particularly drawn to some of these, and including the artist who does the textiles that have been embedded in concrete, which I think are just remarkable.
Well, thank you for mentioning her. I didn't feature her in any of my videos, regrettably, but that you're speaking about Crystal Gregory, and her work's fabulous.
And she'll also be featured in the new space with a solo exhibition as we open.
As we open, yeah.
We'll have several solo exhibitions, and then we'll also be featuring all of our regularly represented artists through the general hanging of the gallery.
So I hope there are a few more questions. We have a few more minutes. Anybody out there want to chime in?
This is Jean McLaughlin. I love Bill Hall's work, and I noticed that you did include that in your small work show, or maybe on that website show you showed.
Bill Hall.
Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, happily. Hi, Jean. It's good to hear you and talk with you. Bill Hall, I did talk a little bit about in my presentation earlier, but he is relocated recently to Asheville after a long career with Pace Editions in New York as a master printer. He is very much got a minimalist sort of aesthetic, graphic quality to his work. He's pretty masterful at a number of printmaking processes, but one of them he's particularly good at is aquatint. And aquatint gets you a really saturated surface of usually like a dark ink, and he just does it in a way that just it just engulfs you and has a nice contrast against the lighter areas in the same print that might have little markings on them. Often with his etchings, he might take a copper plate that's been used around the studio and just kind of the arbitrary dragging of those plates across the table and whatnot leaves a pattern of scratches, little fibrous looking scratches, and he'll ink that and print it. And from a distance, his works look really bold and graphic. You can read them from 100 feet away. But as you get up close on them, one of the things that I enjoy so much is these really subtle, little nuanced details and textures that really reward that up close look.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I tuned in a little bit late, so I'm sorry you had to repeat yourself, but that was very interesting.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. We didn't repeat anything.
No, I said some other things before.
Okay. Good.
Thank you, Jean.
Good to see you. I can't wait for you to open in your new space too.
Thank you. My best to Tom.
I will share it.
Anybody else out there? I'm hoping. Well, you guys have done a lot better today with your questions, so it's made it a lot of fun. Jordan and Schiffer, would you make just a little comment about what is happening at the new end of Broadway? I call it the new end. You're going to be right across the street for the Center for Craft, who will be one of our presenters early next week. But I envision an incredible growth in that neighborhood. And you had a lot of vision to set down there. And I think your new gallery is like 3 stories or something. Remarkable. Wow. So that's a major investment. So I'd like to know what possessed you to do this.
Well, I'll say that Jordan's been in the area since he was a child. His great-grandmother came here in the early 1900s and raised his grandmother. His grandmother raised his mother here in Asheville. And although you primarily just spent summers here, we came back and we made a decision to move back here for the quality of life that this area offers back in the late 90s. And when we made that decision, things were very, very different in downtown Asheville, as most of us remember. And so as we were considering where we were going to find the permanent home for Momentum Gallery, we took into consideration the downtown Asheville area and the area that we thought had the most potential for where we could acquire a large space to be able to show off more amazing work from our incredible artists, but also an area that we felt like would be able to grow and improve with Momentum sort of anchoring itself on that block.
Yeah, I think it's all about activating different areas of downtown, and there's plenty of areas that have seen that activation 10, 15, even 20 years ago or more, and some that are still happening and unfolding to this day. And I think that area of Broadway, we're really thrilled about moving there and certainly being neighbors with the Center for Craft, and around the corner from places like Mora Jewelry, who we have immense respect for, East Fork Pottery, who moved into its new space, Benjamin Walls, a photography gallery there, is our neighbor, and I see immense potential.
BPR.
We've got our local public radio station there. We're right around the corner from the Asheville Community Theater, as well as Black Mountain College's new space, and the Moog Museum, which moved into their old space. So I think that it's a fantastic area of downtown, and we're going to see a lot of growth and change there over the next few years, I'm certain.
Well, we're very excited. You have definitely made a statement. And a statement in your move, a statement in what you've offered today, and the insight and knowledge that you've provided us. I think we're going to close now, but is there anything you would like to add before we do?
Just thank you again for tuning in and giving us your ear for this last hour or so. As I said, we'd love to stay in touch and keep everyone posted with when we're moving in. So figure out a way to connect with us. And
Bob will be sending all the websites. So any of you who want to explore more, the website link will be coming in the morning. And I have to say, this is what you've presented today is perfect with what we're going to present tomorrow, which is Black Mountain College Museum and Art Center, to really look at some of the founding parentage that came after post-World War II with Black Mountain College. The history of that is nothing short of amazing, and really will give you anecdotes and stories about people whose names you've known but maybe don't personally know, like Rauschenberg and Ruth Asawa and John Cage and a host of others. So it's very exciting and very timely. And also to let you all know that I'm writing this journal, I'm collecting testimonial. I will be sending out an evaluation at some point. I'm particularly interested in what kind of traffic or if anybody actually buys anything from the galleries. This has been a very, very difficult time for all of us. And yet, I know a lot of people are looking for things for their home. So thank you so very much for all of that. And we're doing a lot of social media, so keep up with us there as well. Bob, I'm sure you've got things to add. Bob has been totally amazing in his ability to deal with all of this virtual stuff, which I am.
Both are amazing. You are both amazing. We know this firsthand. We've known you long enough to know you're amazing, but Bob is very, very impressive too. Thank you guys so much.
And he's so calm. It's really amazing. So
it's an admirable quality.
Especially to put up with me. So Bob,
well,
back to you.
It's been a great pleasure for me to see all of this new work, and as a relative newcomer to Asheville here from the West Coast, it's been delightful to see that all of the art that I sort of thought was here is here. So thank you all very much for this, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you all for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.